Let's move on to our second question. This is a great transition to buy or sell. So we stick with the trade deadline, which is coming up next month, about 3 weeks away, which drops on February 8th. How do you think the Blazers should view the upcoming trade season? As buyers or as sellers? If you were the general manager of the Blazers, how would you be looking at the trade deadline right now, Nate?
This is going to make fans angry, my response. This is going to make them angry because I would do what I think Neil Olshey's probably going to do this trade deadline and kind of just straddle the fence between a buyer and a seller. Like if a deal like what we just talked about with Nikola Mirotic is available, that's a buyer's deal. You make that deal if you're Neil Olshey. But, if you can also make deals that someone might be willing to take Evan Turner off your hands or Shabazz Napier because you might not bring him back. Ed Davis, the same. He has an expiring contract this year as well. If you can make deals that, get some money off the books for you, or you can get something back for guys that you're probably not going to bring back beyond this season, then you got to make those deals. But to me, the only thing the Blazers can do that will make them true sellers is to trade C.J. McCollum. And I don't see that happening before the trade deadline. I mean, it's the only move I think that will drastically change the result of this season for the Blazers, is them trading C.J. McCollum. All these other moves that we're going to end up talking about, I don't think it really changes what the end result will probably be for this year's Blazers team.
Yeah.
I think
A win or two?
Yeah. And so maybe a seed or two. And trading C.J. McCollum is the only way, and I don't think they're going to do that right now. I mean, right now they're 5th in the West.
Right.
If they're right around here in a month, granted the record isn't great, but they're still 5th in the Western Conference. You're in position to win a first-round playoff series.
Right, you can't do that.
How do you make a deal dealing away your second-best player
As a 5 seed.
as a 5 seed, as what they currently are, a 5 seed in the Western Conference, when you're Neil Olshey and rumors are the seat might be getting a little hotter for him right now? How, if his seat is getting harder, can you sell that to Paul Allen when you say, we're in the 5 seed and we're going to trade C.J. McCollum right now?
You can't do that.
You can't do that. And so to me, I think he's going to straddle the fence. I think he's going to make some moves, but they're going to be minor moves. To me, a major move would be if he could somehow get rid of the Evan Turner contract. To me, that would be a major, major move for the Blazers.
Yeah, I think it's how you determine what buy and sell means.
Yeah.
I think the teams at the top of the NBA right now are clear. You've got the Warriors, and they're above everybody else. Then you have a few teams below them, and the Blazers aren't close in any way to those teams.
Right.
So no move they make this trade deadline is going to put them at the Warriors level. And so I don't think you want to be a buyer in that. I mean, you don't want to go after a guy like DeAndre Jordan or like a veteran win-now player, because what's the point?
Yeah.
So you're going to maybe get one round further in the playoffs, but you're still not going to be a title contender. And so I think you want to be a seller, not in the sense that you're blowing up the team, but you're making moves that you're looking more at, to improve maybe some this season, but to improve even more in the next season or the season after that.
Oh man, dude, there's some people listening
I know,
right now
and
that are going to hate hearing that.
Maybe you don't like that, but I don't think Olshey is going to. He's certainly not trading Lillard, and I don't think he's going to trade McCollum, because the argument against Lillard and McCollum on this team has always been, can you win with two small guards because of their defense? And this season, they're both playing well, and they're both playing well on defense, so they've kind of answered that question. What has changed that would make Neil Olshey say, okay, it's time to put C.J. McCollum out there and see what happens? The only thing that could is if Paul Allen decided that this needed to change, and he told Neil Olshey, let's see what we can get for someone like C.J. McCollum. And I don't think we're at that stage yet either. So I think that they should be sellers, but they should be looking to, if they're going to sell, trade off some of these expiring contracts like Shabazz Napier or Ed Davis, I think they should be looking to get draft picks or good young players, on team-controlled contracts. Or they should look, a Mirotic is kind of a buy move, but it's also looking, because of his age, it's more looking towards the future. It's not something that's going to really put them over the top this year. So I think they could make moves, but I don't think they're going to move someone like McCollum, which, like you said, is the only thing that would really make a seismic shift. Anthony Davis, I don't think is going anywhere, and certainly not to Portland. And so if you're thinking of some huge blockbuster trade like that, it takes two to tango, and I don't think those deals are out there right now.
Okay, so blowing up the team, probably not going to happen. But how about Yusuf Nurkic?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a great question.
It is a great question because he's going to be a free agent this year. He's going to want a lot of money, and the Blazers have currently, depending on what they do before the deadline, have a lot of money tied up right now. So I honestly don't think the Blazers will be the team that offers Nurk his best deal this upcoming offseason. And if you're in Neil Olshey's seat right now, you have to be thinking, okay, and do I believe he's going to be with us next year, or do I believe more he's probably going to end up walking because what we offer isn't going to be close to what he's going to end up getting from someone? And if the answer to that is the latter, then you have to look into dealing him because you don't want him to just walk for nothing. But then it gets to the question, well, what is Yusuf Nurkic's trade value? We were just talking right before this, ranking NBA centers. He's right in the middle.
Yeah.
He's an average NBA center right now on a deal that's about to expire. So you only have him under control for the rest of the season, and then you're probably going to have to fork up $80 to $100 million long-term deal to keep him around. That's going to be really hard to find a team who, A, is willing to take that risk, and B, willing to really give you much in value in return because they're taking on such a huge risk. So while we look at Yusuf Nurkic and we probably always thought he'd have some good trade value, I'm not so sure about that with him.
Not the way he's played this season.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It's kind of a buzzkill coming off of the end of the year that he had. Your expectations were so high, and now you come back down when you see a game like last night's against Houston, and he goes 8-8.
Yeah. Well,
Completely ineffective.
and he was, I told you this yesterday, if he made some shots, some bunnies he missed at the beginning of the game, the Blazers may have won that game against the Rockets last night.
With him, you wonder how frustrated is Neil Olshey? How frustrated is Paul Allen? How frustrated is Coach Stotts? How about his teammates with his inconsistency? We've talked about how he's one of the least efficient offensive centers in the NBA, and he plays good defense, and he's not a bad player. I don't want to paint him that way, but he's certainly not what we thought he was going to be at the beginning of the season after the way he played last year. And so how high is that frustration level? Is it high enough that they're not looking at him as a long-term answer anymore and probably won't sign him in this offseason? And like you said, if that's the case, then they should offer him in trade and see what they can get. But I don't know. Other teams are going to see the same things the Blazers are seeing this year, and they're going to wonder about his fit. And so there might not be a lot of value for him on the trade market.
And which is, that's really the issue with this roster is they're talented enough to be a 5 seed as they currently are in the Western Conference. But in terms of trying to maneuver, they don't have any assets or pieces available that could possibly lift them up to the second or third best team in the West. But they really don't have anything to trade other than their second best player that could really start the rebuilding project here, where you can kind of wipe the slate clean and kind of begin all over again. And there's other factors that play too. Neil Olshey, I just want to point this out, he's under contract till 2021. That's 3 more seasons after this. And so is Damian Lillard. And every move the Blazers make and Neil Olshey makes is going to be in mind that, we have to prove by 2021 that we can win a championship because we have to re-sign Damian Lillard and bring him back. And so if you're going to start a rebuilding project, man, for Damian Lillard, that's what he was sold on when, Stotts came in and Olshey came in. Obviously, he was just a rookie and everything. But then when they made that whole switch with LaMarcus and Batum and Wesley Matthews, moving on from those guys, that was also a discussion. We're going to rebuild here and become a championship team with different players and different faces. And if you have to go and pitch that again to him just 2 or 3 years later, man, that is a tough sell.
Super interesting because you actually see Damian Lillard's window on paper.
Yeah.
This is when he has to get it done. It's over these next couple of years. So my other question for you guys that I'm wondering is, will we see Shabazz Napier in a Blazers uniform next month?
Oh, gosh, that's such a hard question.
He is rolling. He's been
rolling.
so good.
He has been so good. And I even brought up to you, the Blazers are not going to trade C.J. McCollum at the deadline, barring what Jared said, Paul Allen telling Neil Olshey, we have to change it up. That's not going to happen. And I had told you, Shabazz, if they were to deal C.J., they might be looking at Shabazz as a possible replacement who would make about half the money. He's been that good this year for Portland. And so in that aspect, it makes it tough. But I think they probably do deal him because McCollum's going to be around after the deadline. the only way they trade CJ is if there's another first round playoff exit, and then in the offseason.
You've got to strike while the iron's hot.
But yeah, I agree. It's tough to say because he's been so good for them, but I think they do let him go. He's easily their most valuable piece.
Yeah, I wonder how much the finances matter to Paul Allen right now. They're still over the luxury tax line. They could get below it, making a move or two. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, the easiest way to do that is probably with some of these expiring contracts. Obviously, if they could get off the contract of Myers Leonard or even Maurice Harkless or certainly Evan Turner, they do so. But I don't think they're going to do that by adding a first-round draft pick, which is what I think you'd have to do. And so the easiest way to do that is by dealing a player like Ed Davis or Shabazz Napier, players who have been really valuable to the team because they're the players that are going to have value for other teams. And maybe you get a second-round pick or something for making that trade, but then you're lessening the talent on your roster.
You're lessening the talent on your roster, and it's a long-term move, which fans are tired of hearing of because it does create. I mean, it creates cap space, which is good because the Blazers certainly need cap space. But
even those kind of moves, they're not creating cap space. They're getting you below the luxury tax. They don't even get you below the cap line. I mean, to get below the cap line, they'd have to make a lot of moves, and then you have to make the decision, am I going to re-sign Yusuf Nurkic, because then that eats up your cap space. And so they're not in a good financial situation right now for building, through that means, but they've never been able to build that way anyway. So.
And really, we talk about, what are they going to do at the deadline, and I think the consensus amongst us three is they'll probably try to move guys' expiring contracts and maybe try to get rid of one of those bad contracts.
I think they'll definitely try to do that.
Yeah. And so that kind of seems where we're talking. But at the end of the season, the Blazers' season is going to be judged on what they do in the playoffs, assuming they
make the playoffs.
Because while they are fifth right now, they're still only 2.5 games ahead of the team that's ninth, which is Los Angeles Clippers. And so they're actually closer to ninth than they are fourth.
Yeah.
But if they make the playoffs, it's all going to be judged, do they win that first-round series? I think if they win a first-round series, you have to consider this season a success.
Sure.
But I don't think fans believe that's going to happen because I don't believe they think there can be a 5 seed or better at the end of the year. And if you do get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs again, that's when I think you have a result, a final piece to say, look, we have to make a major, major move. Because right now they're in such a tenuous circumstance that we're not sure if they can win a second round. And while, they say, well, they should be competing for championships and all that, well, the only 3 teams this year competing for championships are the Warriors, the Cavs, and the Rockets. I'm not even considering the Celtics in that talk. There's 3 teams there. And you're not going to be there if you're the Blazers. No. So you want this team to be as good as they can be and win as many games as possible. And it's a tough pill to swallow. It really is.
That your ceiling would be
a second
round appearance. But we talked a lot about that.
There are a lot of teams in the NBA right now where that's their ceiling, or they dream of that being their ceiling. So I think that this has been somewhat of a pessimistic conversation, but at the same time, the Blazers are better than they were last year at this point. They're better than they were 2 years ago at this point, and right now it looks like they're trending upward because of the way that they're playing. So I don't want to cast it as all hope is lost, because I don't think they have to blow up this team. I mean, I think that if you can look at the NBA landscape with a little bit of a realistic view, that every team outside of the Warriors is in the same boat as the Blazers, really. Yeah. I don't think the Rockets are going to beat the Warriors. I don't think the Spurs are going to beat the Warriors. I don't think the Cavs are going to beat the Warriors. So everybody's playing for second or worse. And whether you're playing for second or fourth or fifth or sixth or eighth, it's all kind of the same. And so they are at least an entertaining team. And if you can add pieces like a guy like Mirotic or other pieces that we're not aware of right now because we're still a month out from the deadline, I think that you can get to this. Let's say that the Blazers finished with the 5th seed and had a great 4-5 matchup against the Timberwolves or something and won the series, or had an exciting 7-game series. I think fans are going to be buoyed up by something like that.
Yeah,
what we don't want to see is have them fall
4-0.
back to 8th and get swept in the first round of the playoffs again.
That was kind of the point I was going to make, is that I do think there's still a big difference between 4-0 and 4-2 in a series. You showed some life. And to your point, I do agree. If they can win a series, this season is a success.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what, if if I were in the front office, that's what I would be using as a measuring stick for this team in terms of what to do at the deadline. And the frustrating thing is they still haven't given you an answer halfway through the season on whether this is a team that can really do that or not.
And that's where we are, halfway through the season, 22-19 on the year. That brings us to our final topic. That last one, it's just a loaded question we can get that we're going to get into as the weeks move in.
And the answer to that will change
Every
depending on how they're playing
after every game.
Yeah.
So